All right, everybody. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing better than I am. But the show goes on. Obviously, as you guys can probably tell by my voice, I'm still not completely out of the woods with this cold, but we got stuff to talk about. We are careening towards the next stage of the offseason. Free agency is less than a month away, and it's time to play a game that we have played in previous off seasons, and it makes sense to play it again this offseason because we've got quite a few outgoing free agents. Seattle Seahawks, how much to keep? So basically, we're going to take a look at all Seattle Seahawks outgoing free agents, and we're going to determine how much will it cost based on production and past contract patterns to keep the player in Seattle. And then we determine, do we actually want that to happen? So we're going to go through, we're going to start with some of the higher profile guys, we're going to move to some of the lesser known guys, and we're going to be starting with a pretty big one here today. All right, guys, before we go any further into the video, I want to take a minute to tell you guys about my friends over at Sleeper. Sleeper is a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. Download the app to your phone. You can celebrate and chat about sports in real time with other users. You can get scores, news, and alerts with blazing fast speed. And you can play in daily fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. So enjoy sports together. Download Sleeper today, and don't forget to use my promo code SBN for up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Plus, they currently have a free $20 entry, no deposit required, just make an account. Terms and conditions do apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. So check out Sleeper and have fun with sports this year. All right, so we're going to start with Ken Walker III or Kenneth Walker III or K9 or whatever it is you want to call him. You guys know what Ken Walker's all about at this point because he was the star of the show during the postseason for the Seahawks. Had a phenomenal postseason run all the way up to a Super Bowl MVP. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this up front. The fact that Ken Walker had such a great postseason and then won Super Bowl MVP is probably going to lead to him getting overpaid. And when I say overpaid, what I mean is you're going to take a look at the contract he gets, and then you're going to take a look at the career he's had in terms of production and accolades, and you're going to say, how did he get that much? And the answer is just because he played his best football with the brightest spotlight, with the biggest audience paying attention on the biggest stage with the biggest stakes. And I get it, and I'm at peace with it. And let's face it, Ken Walker is probably better than his production so far in his career. We all know about the offensive lines he spent most of his career playing behind. 1 year he kind of lost due to playing with a relatively incompetent offensive coordinator. You could argue 3 years he lost to an incompetent offensive coordinator if you really want to play that game. And there is an immense amount of talent in Ken Walker that probably extends beyond what he's done so far in his career in terms of production. Now, right off the bat, let's understand some things here. Ken Walker does have a market value page on Spotrac, and Spotrac generally does a pretty good job when it comes to estimating contract values. They have Ken Walker's not extension, but next contract at 4 years, 36 million. I think that would be kind of close or at least reasonable if not for the fact that he blew up in the postseason. But I don't think there's any way that Ken Walker is going to get 9 million a year in light of the fact that he won Super Bowl MVP. So I think this is a fantasy at this point. I don't think there's any way K9 is going to take 4 years, 36 million. If he would, I would love that. Believe me, that would be a dream. But I cannot see that happening. What can I see happening? In order to understand that, we got to peel back the layers of some other running backs that have signed contracts in recent times and try to basically balance the various factors of Ken Walker's career versus their careers and try to get to the right number here. So, okay, Ken Walker, he's 25 years old. He's not going to turn 26 until October, so he's still young. former second-round pick, so not a tremendous amount of pedigree, but some pedigree. And like I said, Super Bowl LX MVP. But other than that accolade, which is a pretty big accolade, don't get me wrong, but it's an accolade for one game, not really much of anything else. Never made a Pro Bowl, never been a serious candidate for Offensive Player of the Year or All Pro, never been somebody to put up really, really crazy numbers. Like his career high in yards from scrimmage was actually this most recent season at 1,300 yards. Never had double-digit touchdowns, only has 1 year where he averaged more than 5 yards per touch. So, it is definitely one of those things where you look at it and you go, "Okay, is this guy really a bell cow back the way some of these other guys we're gonna be looking at are?" And given the fact that his career high is 255 touches, you can make an argument that the answer is no, but let's keep going. One thing to consider here, by the way, Ken Walker does not have a fumble problem. There are plenty of players we're going to look at here that fumble a lot more than K9. So that is something to keep in mind here. But also, Pro Football Focus loves Ken Walker. That's another thing to keep in mind here as well. According to Pro Football Focus, K9 was the second best running back in football last year on an efficiency scale. 88.4 was the second highest grade for any player at the running back position in 2025. So understand that the kind of, I don't want to say advanced analytics because PFF is not necessarily that, but the people that try to go beyond the box score think that K9 is about as good as it gets. So let's take a look at some running back contracts here. Sorted by average annual value on these contracts. Saquon, K9 is not Saquon, not even close. Christian McCaffrey, K9 is not CMC. Derrick Henry, no. Jonathan Taylor, no. Although Jonathan Taylor got this extension 3 years ago, so you're probably not that far off because of inflation. Alvin Kamara was 29 when he got this extension, so I don't want to make a comparison there. Let's start with Josh Jacobs, okay? Josh Jacobs got a 4-year, $48 million deal with the Packers 2 years ago. So there's actually been a decent amount of inflation since the Josh Jacobs contract. So 2024, he gets 4 years, $48 million with the Packers as a full-on free agent. Now, Josh Jacobs, you take a look at his career, it's clearly better than what K9 has done so far, right? Like, just look at the first 5 years. Look what he did as a Raider, okay? Now, the last year he had as a Raider was actually pretty bad. Barely over 4 yards a touch, 6 touchdowns, 1,100 yards. It actually wasn't that great. He played 13 games, he missed 4 games. So, contract year Josh Jacobs didn't do a lot, but I think we all know Josh Jacobs was getting paid based off his 2022 season, where he had over 2,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, made first team All Pro, and made the Pro Bowl. And he also had a previous Pro Bowl berth from 2020. So, yes, it is absolutely valid to say that Jacobs didn't light the world on fire in his contract year, but he didn't really need to make it clear that he was a phenomenal running back. He had almost 400 touches in 2022, so he was a pure bell cow back, somebody that you could put a full load on and trust that he would be able to keep playing at a high level. So, I don't think we're there yet. That being said, if you take a look at Josh Jacobs' yard per touch numbers in his career, they're not really better than K9's. Honestly, K9's might even be a little bit better. He fumbles a little bit more, and Pro Football Focus did not think much of him in that contract year, 2023. Now, you go back to 2022, which was his big year. They loved him. They thought he was the best running back in football, but we're not as far away as you might have thought. Okay, so going past Josh Jacobs, the next guy is James Cook, and this was last season. He got 4 years, 46 million. That is 11.5 million per year. So 11.5 million per year is kind of the next thing we want to check out. And James Cook, look, again, I think that it's important to understand, again, you take a look at his career, it is better than K9's. James Cook had a almost 1,600-yard season in 2023. He stepped back to about 1,270 yards in 2024, but he had 18 touchdowns, almost led the league, and he made the Pro Bowl both years. Those are things that K9 has not done, right? K9's never had that many touchdowns, that many yards, never made Pro Bowls. Look at the insanely high yards per touch that he had compared to K9's. It's up there. However, K9 also had a little bit of, I'm sorry, James Cook also fumbled in a way that K9 does not and never has. So there are some balancing factors here, and James Cook was not a bell cow back either. His career high in touches was 280 in his second year. So he was not somebody that was taking on the full load of an offense either. And when he got paid, he got paid. And honestly, there are a lot of similarities here. I think you could make an argument the main difference between James Cook and K9 is that James Cook was in a better offense with Josh Allen and Joe Brady, and it kind of unlocked his ability to be a big-time touchdown back and a big-time yardage back in a way that K9 didn't really get to even have a chance to experience until this year. And you go to his Pro Football Focus page, they didn't love him the way they loved K9 in his contract year, 2024, but they liked him a lot. And there's one other thing to consider here. The Bills paid James Cook early. They paid him after 3 years. So he probably gave them a little bit of a break. I don't think we're going to be getting that kind of a break from K9 because we didn't negotiate with him early. So that is another element to consider here. Okay, so that's James Cook, and I kind of feel like we're already pretty close to where we need to be. I think you can make an argument that that's about where it is, especially with inflation, but let's keep going. Kyren Williams of the Rams. So Kyren Williams last year got 3 years, 33 million. So that's 11 million a year. So he was 24 when he got that, by the way, still very young. Not a lot of pedigree with Kyren Williams, right? He was a 5th-round pick. I understand that. But let's take a look at his career before he got the extension. And keep in mind, he got negotiated with early. So 2023 was the breakout year for Kyren Williams. 1,350 yards, 5.2 yards per touch, 15 touchdowns, Pro Bowl, All-Pro second team. 2024, almost 1,500 yards, 350 touches. Efficiency went way down, but he was still a touchdown machine, 16 touchdowns. Actually got votes for Offensive Player of the Year in 2024. So again, you take a look at Kyren Williams' career, and you would say that he's done more than K9 has. But he also has a little bit of a fumble problem. He fumbled 8 times in the 2 breakout years he had before getting paid. That last year, he only averaged 4.2 yards per touch, which is obviously not very good and not really going to do you any favors. And more than anything, it feels like he kind of got paid money because he's capable of taking on a big workload without breaking down. He got the ball 350 times in 16 games in 2024. So that's impressive, the fact that he was able to get all that and not break down. But at the same time, you take a look at Pro Football Focus, 2024, they were not that impressed with him. They thought he was just a decent back, not even average. Now, 2023 is definitely better, but still not top 10. So honestly, you look at Kyren Williams and you're like, yeah, the production is higher, but it's mostly because he got the ball more, right? And he's also in that McVay offense that makes life so much easier. So yeah, you can make some arguments in favor of Kyren, but you can also make some arguments in favor of K9. And then let's keep going down the list here past a few guys. Ramondre Stevenson, the guy we just beat in the Super Bowl. Look, he got extended after 3 years, I believe it was. Let me make sure about that. Yeah, he got extended after his 3rd year. And look, his 2nd year was pretty great. Almost 1,500 yards, 5.2 yards per touch. But he wasn't some over-the-top bell cow. He didn't even get 280 touches. And that 3rd year, the last year before he got paid, he didn't even have 900 yards from scrimmage. He wasn't a big touchdown guy either. He had a little bit of a fumble problem. He was fumbling quite a bit, although most of his fumbles came after his extension. But other than a lot of yards in 2022, which, hey, yards are great. What? I don't know. I mean, I know Ramondre Stevenson is a nice player, and I know that he had more yards in 2022 than K9 has ever had in one season, but I don't see anything here that indicates to me that he is on the same level as where K9 is in terms of negotiation ability, especially 2 years later, especially coming off that amazing playoff run. Like, what did Stevenson do in the playoffs before he got paid? He had the 2021 season. He basically did nothing in the playoffs. He had like 60 yards in a complete blowout loss. And Pro Football Focus liked him in 2023. They were not enamored with him, right? And you go to 2022, which was his big year, they liked him more, but certainly not the way PFF likes K9. And then after Stevenson, you go down a little bit more, you get to Chuba Hubbard, right? Chuba Hubbard with the Panthers, who got paid after 3 years. Um, he only had 1 year of over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. And what he has at that point, because it was after his third season, he had 13 career touchdowns. He had great efficiency in 2022, but so what? He was barely getting the ball. He only had 109 touches. And like at this point, we didn't even know if he was capable of really being a starting back in a good offense. So Chuba Hubbard, PFF liked him well enough, but they didn't love him. They weren't enamored with him. Certainly not the way they are with K9 right now. So we've clearly gone too far when we get to Chuba Hubbard and his 8.3. So we're going back up past Stevenson's 9 million per year. We're going up past Kyren Williams's 11 million per year. I think that we are settling on about the James Cook contract. I think that K9, with his additional negotiation leverage, is looking at a contract of about 4 years, 46 million. Maybe it goes up to 48 because he did just win Super Bowl MVP. And I don't think that there's going to be a lot of flexibility one way or the other from that. Now, would I give K9 that? I think so. I think you're a little obligated to because of the Charbonnet injury, but I think you're going to get your money's worth out of that. You just have to use him in the right way. You just have to pace him. Understand he's not a true bell cow back, and that's okay. You can use him as such at the end of the season when you really need to get going, but over the course of the year, you pace him and you're going to be okay. He's young. He doesn't have a ton of miles on him. He's got what? Less than 1,000 career touches in the regular season. It can work. All right. 4 years, 46 million. That's my number. See you guys later. Go Hawks.